Today I'll be showing you how to make the Take It All tote. It's made of single crochets, half double crochets, and double crochets, and the camel stitch. One of the stitches featured the alternating eyelet 2 stitch is in the book 200 Crochet Stitches by Tracy Todd Hunter. Let's get started. The yarn I'll be using in my video today will be Loops and Threads, a classic cotton. It comes in 120 yard skeins. You can find this at Michael's craft stores. It's a medium weight 4 and it suggests a 5mm hook. This colorway is Midnight Blue. We'll also be using Iris, and Burgundy. The hook size I'll be using is a 6.5mm hook. To start, make a slip knot. You can make a slip knot however you like to make them. If you don't know how to make a slip knot, I have a tutorial link below that tells you how to make a slip knot and chain. This tote bag can be made in multiples of 3. So if you would like to adjust the size, make sure you do it in multiples of 3. We will start by chaining 39. Now that you've chained 39, or whatever multiple of 3, we're going to half double crochet in the second chain from the hook. The loop on your hook doesn't count. This is the first chain and this is the second chain. And I want to go ahead and half double crochet into the back bump. So we'll be half double crocheting right through here. You can go ahead and half double crochet into the chain if you don't want to half double crochet into the back bump. And you should have 38 stitches when you get to the end of the row. If you're a beginner, I suggest you go ahead and put a stitch marker into that first half double crochet you made. I have 2 stitches left, 2 chains left to go into with my half double crochet, but we will be working in the round. So I place my last half double crochet to have 38 half double crochets, but I'm going to go ahead and place 2 more half double crochets into that last chain. Now we'll begin making half double crochets back down to the other side. I go ahead and sew over the tail of my starting chain so it's already tucked in, and you want to make 37 more half double crochets all the way down the row. I'm coming up on my last 2 stitches, so this will be 37, But we want to put one more stitch in there before we turn this bag, and also to get the stitch count right. So you add one extra stitch, and then you'll be slip stitching where in that first half double crochet you made. Oh, slip stitch. All right. And then you want to chain one and half double crochet into the first stitch. So you should have ended up with 78 stitches total. So we're going to half double crochet into every stitch in the round, and you should end up with 78 stitches at the end of round 2. Your bag, your tote will appear flat, but as we add more rows, it'll start to turn up. And you'll see the bottom of your bag form. This is your last stitch, number 78. This is your slip stitch, and this is your chain 1. So we're going to go ahead and slip stitch in that first stitch of the round, and then we'll chain 1, and make another half double crochet into that first stitch. And round 3 also has 78 stitches. All the rounds on this tote until we get to the top will have 78 stitches. For rounds 3 through 11, you will continue stitching 78 half double crochets. Go ahead and insert your hook as if you're going to slip stitch, and drop your first color, your midnight. And I like to go ahead and grab onto my second color. I'm holding both the midnight and the cranberry together, and then I slip stitch with the cranberry to change colors. Now we're going to go ahead and leave this midnight blue attached. So chain 1, and we're going to half double crochet into that same stitch. Make sure you stitch over your beginning tail so you don't have to worry about that later. Mark your stitch, especially if you're a beginner. And half double crochet in every stitch in this round. You should have 78 half double crochets when you get to the end. Okay, we're at the end of round 12. And this is your slip stitch, and this is your chain, and we're going to be slip stitching into the first stitch of round 12, but we need to go ahead and pull back up the color midnight blue. So you want to drop the cranberry and pick back up the midnight blue, and then slip stitch. chain 1, and we are going to half double crochet into the 3rd loop. So how you do that is it's also into the same stitch. So this is the 1st loop. This is the 2nd loop, you know, the ones you normally stitch through or stitch under. But instead, turn it towards you, and we will be going into this horizontal bar that is just under this 3rd loop, or just under this 2nd loop. So here's your V, turn it towards you, half double crochet into that 3rd loop. This is called the camel stitch. Let me show you that a few more times. Turn it towards you. Here's the V's. Turn it towards you. Half double crochet into that horizontal bar. One more time. There's the V. Turn it towards you. Half double crochet into this horizontal bar. You want to do that all the way down the row. You should have 78 half double crochets again, and what that does is forces these V's to push towards the front, and it gives you a nice little decorative stitch along this section of the bag. Here I am at the end of row 13 with just a couple of stitches left. So there's 77, and here's half double crochet 78. And you want to go ahead and slip stitch into the 1st stitch of row 13. But guess what? We're going to change colors again. We're going to bring our iris in, and we want to finish that slip stitch in the iris color. So now we're ready for row 14. For row 14, chain 1, single crochet into the 1st stitch, making sure you stitch over your tail. You don't have to stitch over your tail, but I like to go ahead and stitch over my tail so I don't have to weave it in later. Sorry, my laundry's beeping at me. We are going to single crochet into every stitch around, and you will have again 78 single crochets along this row. Now, I like to put a few stitches in this row before I deal with these. We are finished. Currently, we're finished with the burgundy and the midnight blue. So we are going to go ahead and cut those off, leaving a bit of a tail to stitch in, to weave in the ends. I like to go ahead and tie a knot. And you can deal with that now, or you can do like me and weave it in later. Now here at the end of row 14, stitch number 77, single crochet, stitch 78, single crochet, and also remember again, there's your slip stitch and your chain right here. You want to go ahead and slip stitch into that first stitch of that round. Now we're going to do a stacked single crochet in that same stitch. So you want to insert your hook and pull up a loop. Single crochet, and then insert your hook into that vertical bar on the left, pull up a loop, and then finish your stitch. Now we're going to double crochet into the next stitch, and chain one, and skip one, and double crochet into the next two stitches, and chain one, and skip one. And that is your row, that is the repeat for this round. Double crochet in two stitches, chain one, skip one. Continue along. You should have 78 stitches at the end of this row. Okay. We're at the end of round 15. We're doing our last two double crochets. Chain one, skip one. This is your slip stitch, and this is your stacked single. You want to slip stitch into the top of that first stitch of round 15, your stacked single crochet. And you want to chain one. And now we'll start row 16, which is a single crochet in that same stitch. A single crochet in the next stitch, and a single crochet into the chain space. So you want to single crochet in every stitch and chain space in this round for a total of 78 stitches. One more time, single crochet into the top of the double crochet from the previous row, and again into the next top of the next double crochet, and then into the chain space. Okay, now that we're at the end of row 16, we are going to repeat rows 14 through 16 3 more times. So you will have 4 sections of single crochet, double crochet, chain one, skip one, and single crochet. Go ahead and do those rows, and then we will continue working on our tote. This is what your bag should look like so far. This is the front, and we did 4 sets of the single crochet, the eyelet part, which is the 2 doubles, chain 1, skip 1. We did 4 sections of those. So now it is time to go ahead and change to the cranberry color. So we're going to do 2 more single crochets here at the end of this row, and then a single crochet in that chain space. And now we're going to slip stitch, but we're going to drop this iris color and pick up the cranberry to finish the slip stitch with. I think I called this cranberry, but it is in fact burgundy. I don't mean to confuse you. So basically we're going to do row 26 and 7 opposite of this. So we're going to do a burgundy, half double crochet. So we're going to chain 1 and make sure you stitch over your tail if you want to do it that way, and half double crochet in that same stitch. And then half double crochet and all the way around for the rest of this round, and you will have 78 stitches at the end. Okay, here we are at the end of row 26, round 26. And we're just going to do our last, yes. We're going to do our last 2 stitches here, and you want to slip stitch, but when we slip stitch, we're going to change colors. So drop this burgundy and pick up your midnight blue and slip stitch to close. For row 27, chain 1 and half double crochet into that first stitch. You can stitch over your tail, and we can keep this burgundy attached. We're finished with the iris color, so you can cut that and weave that in. So 78 half double crochets all the way around. Here we are at the end of row 27, and again you should have 78 half double crochets, and we're going to go ahead and slip stitch, but we're going to drop the midnight blue and change colors to burgundy. For row 28, chain 1, and we'll be doing half double crochets into the third loop. So not these, not the V where you usually go. Roll your work forward, half double crochet into that horizontal loop. This first stitch is a little bit difficult. Gets easier from there. Stitch marker, and then go ahead and half double crochet into that third loop, and I would go ahead and go over your midnight blue tail for a few stitches. So for this row, you will also be stitching again 78 stitches into the third loop, which is the camel stitch, and I will meet you back at the end. We are doing the last few stitches of row 28 in the third loop. And go ahead and slip stitch. For rows 29 through 35, you will continue to chain 1 at the beginning of the row and do half double crochets into each stitch all the way around. So 29 through 35, 78 half double crochets all the way around, and I will meet you at the end of row 35. Here we are at the end of row 35, putting the last 2 stitches in, and go ahead and slip stitch. Now for row 36, it's time to put the handle in. So your bag should lay flat, and you want to go ahead and mark each side of your bag and count your stitches. You should divide it in half so that you have 39 stitches on each side of your bag. So how I do that is go ahead and lay your bag flat and put a stitch marker on each side and count to make sure you have the same number of stitches on each side of your bag. So when you count to make sure you have it divided, you count the stitch this stitch marker is in, and you count all the way down to just before the other stitch marker, and you should have 39. And then when you count the other side of your bag, count starting with this stitch marker and all the way down just before this stitch marker should also be 39 stitches. Now we're going to mark for the handle. I've marked my bag in such a way that there are 11 half double crochets in between each of the middle handle markings. Not counting the stitch markers, you should have 11 stitches in between on both sides. What that leaves is 14 stitches counting this first stitch marker and the stitch before the next stitch marker, and 14 stitches counting this stitch marker all the way until your next stitch marker, and then 11 in between, 14, 14, and 14. As you stitched your bag, you will have noticed that your seam shifts. It's not very noticeable as far as the finished product, but the seam did shift to where the starting point went from the corner to the middle here. So how we're going to address that is go ahead and slip stitch into that first stitch and the second one, slip stitch in number 3, slip stitch in number 4, and then slip stitch in number 5, and take this stitch marker out and slip stitch in number 6. Now we'll chain 1 and half double crochet into that same stitch. So this will be your new starting point for this row, row 36. So we will do 28 half double crochets all the way around to where the start of the handle will be on the other side. When you get to this first side marker, stitch marker, you can go ahead and take it out. You don't need to mark that spot anymore. Stitch number 28 is going to go where that stitch marker is. You can take it out and leave it out. And now we will chain 11. And you should skip 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And then your next stitch is going to go where this stitch marker is. And you'll do a half double crochet. It's a little tricky. And continue around doing 28 more half double crochets until you get to this stitch here. Not 28 more. 28 total half double crochets, counting this first one. Your last half double crochet will go where this stitch marker is at. Now we're going to chain 11. And slip stitch into this first stitch on this row, row 36. So this is what your bag looks like on each side. You should still have 78 stitches. For row 37, you're going to chain 1, half double crochet into that first stitch, and you're going to half double crochet all the way around. When you get to the chain, you need to half double crochet 11 stitches, and when you come back around to this chain, half double crochet 11 stitches and slip stitch into the beginning. I've reached just a couple of stitches before the handle, so this is 27, 28, and now it's time to stitch your 11 half double crochets over that chain. Now we'll do 11 more stitches across this chain 11, and we'll slip stitch into the top of that first stitch. Now you're going to slip stitch into the top of that first stitch in the row. And this is what your bag looks like. You might have to spread these half double crochets evenly along that chain. So now we're on row 38, and you want to chain 1 and half double crochet into that first stitch and half double crochet in every stitch around. So again, for round 38, you will have 78 half double crochets. Here we are at the end of row 38. Go ahead and slip stitch into the first stitch of that round, and then chain 1, cut your yarn so you can weave in a tail. Congratulations, you're finished with your bag. I hope you enjoyed my tutorial. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up, like and subscribe if you'd like to see more tutorials, and I will see you next time. Create your happy.